Hello and welcome back to the X-Ring. We have a really cool episode for you today. You guys know we've been killing it with the 22, shooting every NRL, X, and PRS ELR match we can find. And one of my viewers, Orsen, was kind enough to contact me and said he was really working on a unique build, and he will actually be shooting at the match at VOD in Old Fort, North Carolina next month as well. So we look forward to seeing him. So let's get this started by talking about all of his parts, pieces, and components. And one of the things I asked Orsen is why didn't you just buy a Voodoo from the beginning? And he said he wasn't aware of Voodoo. So I am really interested to see how this build turns out. It's a really unique build, probably unlike anything that you've seen before, with some really cool components. So let's go ahead and get this build started. All right, guys, so the heart of the build is actually a Volquartsen Summit. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen these before, and it looks very reminiscent to a Fortner style action. Olympic biathlon shooters that basically wanted to have the less movement off the grip and could just work the action with their index finger and their thumb. Now, this is not a semi-automatic. This is a 1022, which has basically got the Volquartsen single action, or single pull, if you will, action to it. Very, very nicely machined. It already has 20 minutes of angle machined right into the top right there. These are actually made out of Carroll, Iowa. And this rear tang here is by KIDD. And before anybody says anything, this is one of the reasons why Orsen had contacted me, because they needed some assistance getting this tang installed. Because when you get one of the Volquartsens from the factory, it's going to have a hole. It's underneath this tang. You can't see it right now. And what a lot of the guys have done was contracted machine shops and whatnot to install this tang, because it has an inset. And what most guys will do is they will mount it flush with the bottom of the receiver. And that's probably the right way, but then you're going to be looking at a semisphere hole on the backside of this. And I didn't think that looked right. If it was for my rifle, I wouldn't be happy with that. So what I did was I located this up a little higher, put the inset cut in it, and I actually made a steel shim for the bottom of this. So what's essentially going to happen is when this sits in the chassis, I actually machined this out to fit perfectly so that you can pull that down. Now, the reason why you would want the rear tang is because if you're familiar with 1022s, you know they only have one screw up in the front. So now what we're trying to do is get this receiver secured into the action, very similar to a bolt action. And so we'll see how it does. So that's going to be the heart of it, is the Volquartsen Summit action. Then we have the barrel. Barrels are very, very important, of course. This is a 16¼ inch stainless Feddersen barrel, threaded on the end with a thread protector, and it does come with the barrel shims to set the headspace. More on that a little later on. Right now, for the price point, so you guys can follow along, is the receiver and the bolt on this Volquartsen is going to run you about $680. Yes, I know, it's a lot of money. It's more than you're going to pay for an RPR or anything like that. Like I said, this is a really unique custom build, and he wanted to do it right. The barrel is going to run you around $260. Now let's talk about the chassis. The chassis that he chose is by Accurate Rifle Systems. Guys, look at that machining goodness there. Just beautiful. I know it's a little tough to kind of picture it without the Cerakote on it or any finish. But right now, that's that machined finish like that. Very unique. They are a USA-based company out of Ohio. It's owned by one gentleman. Started off as a tool maker. Now he's his own CNC machine shop. I read his about information. It's really funny how he got started. He never was really into firearms. I think the only thing he'd ever shot was a shotgun. And someone had him do an ELR pistol chassis for 1,000-yard pistol shooting. And so he machined that, and the rest is history. He got a request to do PRS and other type of ELR chassis. And so this is one of those. This is $500. There's some very, very unique things about this in regards to his barricade stop and his ARCA switch. He has a clamp system that goes into the sides here, and then they locate in these holes. This is a modular system, so you can switch this out on the back into a conventional, like an AR style stock. And this chassis is going to run you about $500. ARS, that is the name of the company, Accurate Rifle Systems. Now, what you're looking at now is the grip. The grip was an additional cost. This does come with additional thumb rests on here. I think the cost of this grip was $120, and what we have taped to the bottom are different perches for your thumb here. So what we wanted to do was machine this part to go into this chassis, into the bottom here, so that this action, when it sits in here, sits perfectly flush like that, and it's finished out nicely. If I would have located that hole or located it lower down, then this would have been a recessed area here, and it would have just looked horrible. So I told him I was going to do it the way I would have done it if it were my rifle, and basically there's that action just like that. Man, that's just beautiful. So what good would it be without a great trigger? And for the trigger, he chose a KIDD match trigger. This KIDD trigger is about $352 because it does have the extended magazine release and it does have the straight face trigger. This is also adjustable down to 6 ounces. This is set for around 6 ounces right now. The KIDD rear tang on the action was about $25. And then we were going to top this off with a Vortex PST Gen 2. And it's going to be about $7.99. So you kind of know what we're dealing with. What we're going to do is go ahead and get this all assembled. I'm going to shim the barrel out. We're going to check it for fitment, and then we'll move forward from there. All right, so before we get started, what we want to do is we want to set the headspace on this barrel, this 1022. Now, Volquartsen does sell shim kits, and they sell them in 2,000 increments and thou increments, okay? You really can't tell them apart other than feeling them like this. So I know this is a 2 thou, this is a 1 thou. What you want to do is have just enough resistance so that when you start to close the bolt and it cams over, that it's not too difficult to cam over. It says place 4, but they only give you 3 2,000 shims and 3 1,000 shims. So the problem is, do you put 3 1,000 and 1 2 thou, or do you put 3 2 thou and 1 thou? Only way to know is to find out by doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start by doing 3 of the 2,000th shims and 1 of the 1,000th shims. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the V-block on, we'll check it, we'll see how it closes, what it feels like, and then that should give us a good idea on the headspace. It's that simple on one of these. It's not like trying to headspace a rifle, right? So let's go ahead and get these shims on here, and let's get it into the action. And it's like paper thin, so you just want to be careful that you don't damage them. So there we go on the stack, and what we're going to do is we're going to place this into the action. And then now we can place our V-block on here. Once we place our V-block on here, we can go ahead and tighten it up. So there's our V-block. It's going to go in this way. I have no idea what it's actually going to come out to. And then, of course, I am using all Borka tools for this build. Everything should be torqued properly. And they actually give you one in the Borka set that has the ball end on it. So it makes it really nice because it's hard to get on a 1022 to get square on it. So let me go ahead and get this in. Get these snug down. Let's feel what the action is like. This is perfect. I've actually put 8 thou of shims in here, and that is dead on smooth. If I take a thou out, it gets too difficult to close, and so I think this is perfect. Your action is going to close with just a little bit of resistance and a click, and there it is. So we're going to go ahead and get this torqued down with the Borka kit, and then we'll go ahead and drop it into the chassis. For the barrel torque setting, you want this to be 18 to 25 inch-pounds. All right, so before we go any further, what we're going to need to do is drop the trigger mechanism into this. So it's pretty simple. Want to make sure that that's flush on both sides, and then we're just going to take the 1022 trigger, the KIDD trigger, and we're just going to line up our holes just like that. Now we do have some stainless pins we're going to go ahead and drop into here, so let me grab those. So we have our 2 stainless pins. Let's go ahead and drop these in to get everything set. Once everything's nice and flush, ooh, there it is. So before we drop it into the chassis, I need to make sure I have my spacer in there, which I do. And so now let's go ahead and mount this in here without any type of dragging around. And there it is. Wow, it looks beautiful. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get the front action screw and then the rear action screw in here. And this front action screw, what I'm going to make sure is the action is to the rear. I'm just going to tap it lightly. All right, guys, so there it is. We've got it torqued in. It looks beautiful. There's also another piece that goes right here for a barricade stop. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. It actually covers up the front action screw. It'll also help or assist as a mag well. So let me go ahead and get these in. All right, guys, and there it is. All right, guys, so I'm interested to see how this thing groups. It's very windy. It's starting to get dark on me, but I want to get some rounds down range just to see what kind of grouping. Remember, it's going to take about 15 or 20 rounds just to get that wax within the barrel. So let me get it on paper first, and we'll see what happens. It's a lot of money in the build, and I get that. But will it be worth it? Let's see. All right, guys, so the first shot is about 1.8 mils high. So let me come down about 1/8, and we are about 6/10 right. So let's go 6/10 left. That should do it. The action's not the smoothest. We're gonna go top left. All right, guys, the KIDD trigger is really, really nice. That first grouping is really low. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up. It's pretty much centered. I might go 1/10 left. So we'll go 1/10 left, and we'll come up about 5/10. It's not bad at all. It does have a 16¼ inch barrel, but it's nothing to write home about. I wouldn't be trading my Voodoo in for this. But it's very, very unique. It's almost like it's dragging when it's feeding the round in there. And I don't know if maybe the magazine needs to be fitted for these. I mean, I'm not getting any kind of rubbing or anything like that on this, but like I said, I'm still getting that flyer, which I'm not used to getting anymore with the Voodoo. You rarely get it. Now, like I said, it is tuned for that. But yeah, the action's very, very unique. I think it's a cool setup. Big shout out to Orsen for letting me bring you this video. And like I said, while it is very unique and while he can be very competitive at the match coming up, heck, he might even beat me. It's just the action's a little different than what I'm used to. I thought it would be pretty cool, pretty novel, and it is, but it's just not what I'm used to. Let's see what we can do offhand on the steels. Here we go. All right, guys, so while it is a very, very cool concept, and I was really, really glad to have the opportunity to shoot this, one of my biggest complaints is the action is butter smooth, guys, but when you're trying to feed a live round into the action, it does take a little more effort than I was used to. So I don't know if you have to maybe radius the 1022 mag just to where it feeds a little better. As far as groupings, once I got it on paper, the initial group, now remember, we were still in that process of still getting rounds into the barrel, because I think this was shot number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, because one was getting it zeroed. But this is actually a 5-shot group. So there's 3 in this hole here, 1 here, and then a big flyer. I don't have to deal with a lot of flyers with the Voodoos. Right after that, I shot a 5-shot group, and it looked like that. So the accuracy potential is is definitely there. There's no doubt about it. But overall, it's a great build. I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, it's a little flashy, but I think with a little bit of Cerakote, you'll look great. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button for me. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.